So I was in the middle of filming a video about Nate Diaz and then the Menery thing with the Nelk boys and Dana and all that. And I called an audible because I saw the clip of Ian Garry talking about Sean Strickland. And now I'm doing Ian Garry, Sean Strickland, and then Nate Diaz and how he is having an example made of him with the UFC. I'll tell you about that in a second. But we're going to start with the Ian Garry thing. It's going to be a little bit jumbled. I'm going to give you an intro from the Nate thing because I've already filmed it. And then we're going to do Ian Garry, and then we're going to talk about the Nate Diaz thing. Let's go. All right, so the Nate Diaz story is that Dana White is making an example of him, and he's not letting him back to the UFC. At least that's what it appears to be. There's a new video of Nate saying some things to Sneako that are very fascinating as it relates to his future and why they are not letting him fight on UFC 300 or probably ever again. But first, we're going to do Ian Garry, and I am very curious what you guys think about this because I'm going to say some very nice things about Ian Garry after he goes hard in the paint at Sean Strickland. And I'm going to say some nice things about Sean Strickland, and then I'm going to beg the UFC to give me that fight. But nonetheless, give it a watch, and go ahead and subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet, and like the video, and tell me what you think in the comments. This is a fascinating topic. Both of them are. Oh, you had to know this was coming. Let's go. Ian Garry talking about Sean Strickland and the words he said about his wife. He's not going to take it. He's not going to take it. I watched the first 2 seconds of this and was like, hold up. I'm going to watch this for the very first time on camera, and then we're going to see what kind of video comes out. Because here's the deal. He has a right to be mad, dude. Strickland talked about his wife. Talked about his wife. I talked about his wife, just not in the way that Strickland did, and also it's good for him. But we're going to watch this right now because I think this sets up a very real fight, and I love it. I love it. I love it. UFC's going to make this fight if Ian Garry wins. Let's watch it. Rock and roll. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet because you guys are my best friends. Just like Strickland is best friends with Curtis, Ian Garry's best friends with his wife. He's going to defend her like crazy right now. All right, let's go. Watch this.
Listen, we can shoot shots at each other all day long, me and another bloke, but the minute he mentions... Here's the thing. Here's the 2 things that I'll point out to you, right? My wife was called a pedophile by Sean Strickland. No woman ever deserves to be called that. Right? That's the truth. My son, the people that follow Sean Strickland, commented on a couple of my photos at the very start of all this hate saying, is the kid even his? I should never have to hear that. Now, those 2 things, they emotionally get me. And I'll get mine back. I'll thump the fucking mouth off Sean Strickland one day, and there'll be nothing he can do about it. And I'll talk to him, I'll dance in his face, I'll do whatever I want, because the truth is, when we get locked into that cage one day, he's never going to be able to deal with me. But the truth is, I have a target on my back. I have the ability to stop.
Okay, hang on. Let me just stop it right there. I don't know if you could see that, but that just put my hair on end right there. That did. I love Strickland. I love Ian Garry. I'm not going to lie, dude. I do. I'm a big Ian Garry fan. I've been saying it from the beginning. I break his balls because it's good for YouTube because he's easy to have his balls broken. But that right there just put my hair on end because he means it, dude. He's like, he talked about my wife. He talked about my kid, whether or not my kid is mine. When he locked me in the cage with him, and I was like, oh, give me that fight, dude. For real, give me that fight. This is what I was talking about when Dustin said he didn't care about Conor anymore. Now, I was talking about him faking it, calling it a blood feud. This is real. This is 100% real. Ian Garry, for real, wants Strickland. Ian Garry is a huge 170-pounder. He could for sure move to 185 and very easily compete there. It's a fantastic matchup. I want that fight for real. Let's continue.
Stand here and shoot shots at anyone I want because this is my job and they have the opportunity in return. So for me, when you attack people in my circle when they don't deserve it, that's out of line. And look, Sean Strickland is not the fucking voice we should all be listening to. Do you know what I mean? He's deeply, deeply indebted with trauma and he should just be silent and try to deal with his own personal issues himself. And that's mainly where it all came from. I'm very proud of who I am, of what I'm doing, and what my family is doing, traveling the world together. I'm very proud that I get to travel and spend every single day of this journey with my wife and my kid beside me. I'm very happy to be showing the world my journey through my social media. I'm very happy to have people like Diego Lima and Shoot the Box behind me. I don't give time to this negativity anymore. I turn off the comments on my Instagram because I can protect the peace. I don't have time for other people's opinions anymore. I'm going to live my life the way I want to live it, and I'm not letting anybody get in the way of that anymore.
Damn. Damn, son. If you're wondering who I'm rooting for this weekend, it ain't Joff Neal. Give me that fucking fight. Give me that fucking fight. Give me that fucking fight. Please. Please give me that fight. Dana, Hunter, Sean, Mick, anybody at the organization, give me that fucking fight, dude. Give it to me. That right there, that is how you win a guy like me over. That right there. That speech right there is how you win me over, dude. All the like, I'm the I have said from the beginning, I think this guy is going to be a world champion. I think he's the exact right kind of crazy. You go in front of the entire world. You know people want to break your balls. You defend your lady. You defend your kid. Defend your family. Defend your kids. Or defend your way of life. You talk about your team. That's what the fuck I'm talking about, dude. That is what I'm talking about. That's good shit right there. Now, am I partial because I have, I have a similar situation to him, like in terms of my living. I mean, I love Strickland though, dude. Strickland is fucking crazy. But what he's saying is not wrong. Strickland's nuts. Why do I like Strickland? Because Strickland is nuts. Strickland's going to say whatever he wants. Do I think Strickland's a bully? 100%. I do. I think Strickland is accidentally a bully. I don't even know if Strickland realizes it or not. I don't even think Strickland really realizes it. You know? Like, I'm not sure if Strickland realizes that he's bullying people. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you're not the little kid under the bed anymore, dude. Like, you are the toughest motherfucker on earth now. You know what I mean? Like, I think that mentality where people kind of, go after weakness, where they have this inherent need to attack weakness. I can tell you where that comes from, dude. Like, seriously, I will tell you where that comes from. I like Sean because he is authentic and he says whatever the fuck he wants, and I respect anybody that does that. But that thing about like, oh, here's Sneako, an influencer who has no chance, I'm going to whip his ass. Or like, here's this guy that can't beat me up, I'm going to whip his ass. Okay, if you, I'm not going to use that example because I'm not comparing Sean to those kinds of people, but basically like adult perpetrators of crimes that you're like, we should put that, and I'm not saying Sean is anything like these people at all, but people like that, you're like, let's put these motherfuckers in the ground. First of all, you should, because in a lot of cases, they're not fixable. But if you go into their childhood, they had that shit done to them when they were kids. They got turned into monsters. We should put monsters down. But that's what happened. Sean, when he was small, was one of those, like he was in a position he couldn't defend himself. So now he turned himself into the adult that no one can fuck with, and no one can fuck with him. Bottom line, people like these people like, oh, I'm going to go spar Sean Strickland. Dude, he's going to beat your fucking ass, dude. Sean's going to whip your fucking ass. He's going to beat the brakes off of you. He is going to, the fact that he is not a nuclear power like knockout artist, that's worse for you, dude. That's not a good thing. That's not going to help you. That's worse. Okay? Because he's a cardio machine. He's never going to get tired. Okay? Like, I don't think people, it's like the people who fight or have any experience fighting will know that what I'm saying is 100% correct. Okay? Believe me when I tell you, you would rather get clipped heavy, fall down, and they go like this than someone hit you over and over and over and over and they break you. You're so tired. You're looking, they're not even fucking breathing hard. That's Sean. Okay? He's breaking your orbital. He's breaking your cheek. He's knocking out your teeth. He's kicking your stomach. And here's the other thing. There's nowhere else he'd rather be. Okay, he doesn't want to finish the fight. He doesn't, one of the reasons he probably doesn't have a lot of power is because he doesn't want to finish the fight. He wants to fight. That's all he wants to do. He wants to sit in the cage and beat the fucking shit out of you for as long as it takes, as long as possible. He just wants to hurt you. That's all he wants to do, and he wants to do it for as long as possible, and he's never going to run out of gas. You're going to have to quit. Like, you're going to have to quit. That's how you're going to have to get out of there. You're just going to have to, at some point, say, I give up. Nothing is worse for a man's psyche than that moment where you break and you give up. Okay? He hurt you so much and you fucking ran out of gas. He's so much harder than you that you just crumbled underneath his overwhelming blanket force. Like, it's the worst thing ever. Okay? But with that said, that instinct that he has to fuck with people who are weak, that's not a natural, like that doesn't come, like, you know, all the manhood stuff, real manhood, you do not have that instinct to break little things, you know? Like Tim Kennedy doesn't see an influencer and he's like, I'm going to go break this guy's ribs. You know what I mean? Like that comes from that other thing. And I really would encourage him to like check that shit. Cause I'm on his fucking team, dude. But that's a bad instinct. And I know exactly where that comes from. And it's not his fault. It's not his fault. He should just be aware of it so he doesn't do it if he can avoid it. You know what I mean? And you know, here's the other thing. He doesn't do it like, it's only with dudes. That's how, like that. I think that's another thing too. It's like, I've seen him training with Nina Drama. He's not gonna, like, he like, Nina Drama is the same threat level as Sneako to him. He's not gonna beat the shit out of fucking Nina Drama. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. I'm just talking to talk now. But all I'm saying is, give me that fight, dude. Give me that fight. Give me Ian Garry and Sean Strickland. Give me that fucking fight. Please. Please give me that fight. All right, now let's do Nate Diaz. All right, let's start here. This is on Sneako's Rumble, and I pulled this from Twitter. So this is a conversation between Sneako and Nate Diaz about Nate Diaz's participation in UFC 300, and then we're going to talk about it.
Are you going to fight on 300?
I want to do, but I don't think so. I think I'm going to have to do boxing. Fight another fight or two. I can fight everybody in the world right now, but nobody can fight me. Everybody's locked down in the organization, you know?
Why can't they fight you?
Because they're locked down in the UFC, they're locked down in PFL, they're locked down on these things.
But they had it.
So one of them is mic'd up and the other one's not. Okay, so what, let me just go over that again. So what Nate said to Sneako is he said that he wanted to fight on 300 and he's not there. Okay, so that should be very telling right there. Number two is he asked, well, what are you going to do? And he said, I'm going to fight somebody. I might box. I can fight anybody, but nobody can fight me. And he said, why? What does that mean? He said, well, they're locked into their organizations. So what he means by that is all the other people are locked into exclusive contracts with either PFL or UFC. All right. So what does that mean? Okay. What that means is that when he went back to try to fight on 300, the UFC did not make him an offer, right? Nate said he wanted to fight on 300 and they didn't make him an offer. Now, why would they do that? Nate is obviously one of the biggest stars. Think about think about how hard they're trying to put UFC 300 together. They're asking John Jones, they're asking these guys. They can't get Conor, can't get Chandler. They can't get these things put together. And they turned Nate down. Why? And like I said, someone close to me who is, in a much better position to know this stuff than me, if he wants to say it publicly, then he can say it publicly. I'm not going to quote him. But when I said I think Masvidal and Nate are going to fight at 300, I was obviously very wrong about that. Masvidal is clearly not, in a position to take a fight right this second. But they were like, he will never fight in the UFC again. And I was like, really? He's like, never. And here's why, dude. Here is exactly why. Nate Diaz negotiated with the UFC to the end of his contract, refused to sign, turned down all kinds of crazy offers, so much money. They kept on offering more money, and he just kept turning it down. And he went to free agency and he fought Jake Paul. Okay? So he went and got that big bag. Now, what message does it send if the UFC allows him to do that and then they just sign him right back up and he comes back to fight? What does that say? It says to other people who might want to do that they can go and they can go get the big bag and they can just come right back and UFC will take them back. Okay. Nate Diaz is more valuable than any of these other guys, most likely, aside from maybe Conor and that's it. Anybody else who's like, man, dude, he did it. I want to do that. I'm going to go do it. The UFC has to set precedent. It's all about precedent, dude. They have to set precedent that if you do that, you are not coming back here, right? Because they don't want people to leave. They obviously don't want anyone to leave. Okay, so it's not that they don't want Nate back. They want Nate back, but not at the expense of telling all the rest of the fighters that they can just go get the bag and then come back to UFC whenever it's convenient for them. So if they set that, if they put their foot down with Nate, who, listen, dude, I'm obviously a huge Nate fan. I want the best for him all the time. But like, how much longer does he have to be a really top level elite UFC prize fighter? I'm just talking age. He's like 38 or 39 years old. He doesn't have that much longer. And so are they going to come and get like 1-2 fights out of Nate? Unless it was for the Conor fight. Maybe you sign him to a 1-fight deal, maybe. But like, if it's not that, like, it's not worth bringing it back, because then people are going to really start eyeballing their sunset clauses and all that. And you have this set of sunset clauses coming back. I've heard that they've gotten rid of the sunset clause. And for those of you guys who don't know, sunset clause is a date built into the contract where no matter what, your contract ends. No matter what. Now, Nate fought all of his fights out, but he also had a sunset clause, okay? If he wouldn't have done the fight with Tony Ferguson, which would have been homicide and all that stuff, we talked about that a million times, he would have been out of his contract in October anyway, because that's when his sunset clause was. So the point I'm making is, like, if you're pick a person, right? Like Kamaru Usman, when he wanted to go fight Canelo, let's say he only had one fight left on his deal. If he knew that he could just fight one fight, go fight Canelo, and then just come right back to the UFC, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to do exactly that. What do you think he's going to do if he might be able to get a Canelo fight, but if he fights out his contract and he goes and explores that as a free agent, the UFC has closed the door completely on him. You are not coming back here. That's just our policy. I'm sorry. It's nothing against you. That's just how we do. If you want to thrive inside of and this is why I actually agree with it, to be perfectly honest with you. As a business, like the UFC, this goes back to the class action lawsuit also. The UFC has a mechanism for building stars. This is what Dana was saying in the deposition that we did about the video last week. They build stars in the UFC. He's saying you can't do that anywhere else. No one else does that. No other MMA organization is good at building stars, okay? Chandler, Michael Venom Page, those guys are big enough stars that they kind of came out of Bellator with some profile. But for the most part, these other organizations do not build stars, right? Now, ONE FC has some guys, like Rod Tang, there are exceptions to the rule, of course. But for the most part, UFC builds stars. And so they say, look, dude, we built you. If you want to take that star that we built and you want to take that out on the open market, you want to go take what we built together and say, you know what, I don't want to fight for the UFC anymore. I want to fight over here. That's fine, but you're not coming back. You do not get to take what we built with you, go out there and cash in and then come back. Nope. It's you're with us or you're not with us. You're with us or you're not with us. And that is a good business decision.